Today, I'm going to tell you something most people don't want to hear. Stop whining, stop making excuses, stop pointing fingers. You know, you want to be great, you want to rise above average, then listen carefully, because greatness doesn't come to the ones who complain, it comes to the ones who decide right here, right now, that excuses are no longer part of their vocabulary. I wasn't born the greatest basketball player in the world. I was cut from my high school team. Imagine that, Michael Jordan. The so-called legend told he wasn't good enough. I cried that night. I was angry, I was embarrassed. But let me tell you something. I didn't spend my time blaming the coach or the system or the world. I didn't whine. I got to work every morning before the sun came up. I was on the court, sweat dripping, lungs burning, legs trembling. I practiced the same move 1,000 times. I missed, I failed, I stumbled, but I kept going. While others were still asleep, I was chasing something greater. Do you understand what I'm saying? Every single weakness you have can be turned into strength if you stop complaining about it. Nobody cares that you're tired. Nobody cares that life isn't fair. Nobody cares about your excuses. What they care about is results. What they remember is whether you rose when it was hard, whether you delivered when it mattered. When I stepped on the court, I carried a simple mindset. My opponent is not allowed to outwork me. You might have more talent, you might be taller, stronger, faster, but you will never hear me clearly, never outwork me. That was my obsession. That was my edge. And here's the truth you don't want to admit. Sometimes your worst enemy isn't the competition. It's you. It's the voice in your head that tells you I can't. It's the weakness that wants you to quit. It's the comfort that whispers, take it easy. But greatness doesn't live in comfort. It lives in pain. It lives in sacrifice. It lives in the hours nobody sees, the mornings nobody applauds, the nights when you're exhausted but still pushing through. So the next time you feel like complaining, I want you to remember this. Every second you spend whining is a second you could be improving. Every tear wasted on excuses could be sweat earned in progress. Don't tell me how hard it is. Show me how much harder you're willing to fight. Because whining won't make you better. Work will. You know what complaining does? It keeps you exactly where you are. It locks you in a cage you built for yourself. And every time you say, I can't, or it's unfair, you're tightening the lock. Listen, life is not supposed to hand you what you want. Nobody handed me championships. Nobody handed me MVPs. I had to earn every single one. You see the highlights, the dunks, the trophies. What you don't see are the endless hours of failure behind them. The missed shots in practice, the losses that broke me, the nights when my body begged me to stop. I missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I lost almost 300 games. 26 times I was trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. Do you hear me? I failed again and again and again. But I never let those failures become excuses. I turned them into fuel. That's the difference. Some people fail once and they give up. They whine, they say it's not meant for me. But champions take failure and build on it. They squeeze every lesson out of it until it becomes strength. I remember walking into the gym when everyone else had gone home. Silence, just me, the ball, and the rim. My hands raw, my legs heavy, sweat soaking through my shirt. I wasn't chasing applause. I wasn't chasing attention. I was chasing improvement. Every day a little better, every rep a little sharper. And I'll tell you something else, greatness is lonely. While your friends are out having fun, you'll be grinding. While others are sleeping, you'll be wide awake working. And people will look at you and say, why are you doing this to yourself? They won't understand. But that's okay, because they don't have your vision, they don't carry your fire. You see, people want results without sacrifice. They want victory without battle. But it doesn't work that way. You want to be the best? Then stop whining and start suffering. Start embracing the grind, because on the other side of pain is growth. On the other side of doubt is greatness. When the game was on the line, when the clock was ticking down, I wanted the ball, not because I was guaranteed to make the shot, but because I was willing to fail for it. I was willing to carry the weight. Most people don't want that responsibility. They're too afraid of the pain, too afraid of the criticism, but that's exactly why they stay average. Stop being afraid, stop making excuses, step into the fire. That's where greatness is forged. You think greatness is about talent? No, talent might open the door, but discipline kicks it down and keeps it open. Everywhere I went, people wanted to talk about natural ability. They said, Michael, you're gifted, you were born for this. Let me tell you the truth. Talent didn't make me who I am. Obsession did. Relentless work did. The refusal to quit did. Do you know what it feels like to be the last one in the gym? To hear the echo of the ball long after everyone else has gone home. That echo was my friend. That silence was my competition. I wasn't trying to be better than anyone else. I was trying to be better than the man I was yesterday. And that's the battle you've got to fight. Not against the world, not against the critics, not even against your rivals. The real battle is you versus you. Every morning when you wake up, you've got a choice. Do you keep whining about how hard life is, or do you get up and make yourself harder than life? I chose the second option every time. When my body screamed for rest, I trained. When doubt crept in, I shot another 1,000 jumpers. When fear whispered, "What if you miss?" I answered, "What if I fly?" The truth is, excuses are comfortable. They make you feel safe. They give you a reason to stop trying. But excuses will never raise a trophy in your hands. Excuses will never etch your name into history. Excuses will bury you in mediocrity, and nobody will remember your name. People always ask, "Michael, what drove you?" It was simple. I hated losing. I hated the thought of leaving this earth without knowing how far I could go. I wasn't chasing perfection. I was chasing my potential. I wanted to squeeze out every ounce of ability, every drop of effort, until there was nothing left to give. And let me tell you something, when you push yourself that far, when you dig that deep, you discover something incredible. You discover that your limits were a lie. You discover strength you never knew existed. You realize that greatness was never about being chosen, it was about choosing yourself. So I ask you, when are you going to stop whining? When are you going to stop making excuses? When are you going to look in the mirror and say, it's time to become better? Because the clock is ticking. Life won't wait for you to feel ready. Success won't knock politely on your door. You've got to hunt it down, fight for it, bleed for it. And the moment you stop whining and start working, that's the moment your life changes. There's a reason most people never taste greatness. It's because they're too busy complaining about why they don't have it. They say, I didn't get the chance, I didn't have the resources, nobody believed in me. Let me tell you something, nobody believed in me either, and that was my advantage. When I was cut from my high school team, I could have quit. I could have told myself, maybe this isn't for me, but instead I turned rejection into motivation. Every single person who doubted me became fuel for my fire. I didn't need their belief, I needed my own. That's the truth most people run away from. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody owes you greatness. If you want it, you've got to demand it from yourself. You've got to be willing to do what others won't. And here's the hardest part. Greatness is not about what you do when the lights are on. It's about what you do in the dark. It's about the lonely mornings, the empty gyms, the unseen sacrifices. Everybody wants the glory, but nobody wants the grind. Everybody wants to hold the trophy, but nobody wants to bleed for it. But I love the grind. I love the pain. I love the challenge of pushing past what I thought was possible. Because every time I pushed, every time I suffered, I was reborn stronger. Pain was my teacher. Failure was my classroom. You've got to stop running from your struggles. Embrace them. Use them. Because every complaint you make is wasted energy that could have been spent building yourself. Every time you say, I can't, you're just giving your power away. When I walked onto the court, I wasn't just playing a game, I was making a statement. I wanted every opponent to know you might beat me once, but you'll never break me, you'll never outwork me, you'll never outlast me. That was my mindset. Ruthless, relentless, unstoppable. And that's what you need to develop. Not just skill, not just talent, but the mentality of a warrior, the refusal to quit, the refusal to whine, the refusal to accept average. So the next time life knocks you down, don't waste a second crying about it. Get up, adjust, push harder, because complaining won't build your legacy. Sweat will, tears of effort will, sacrifice will, sacrifice will. Greatness isn't something you inherit, it's something you create through blood, through work, through obsession. So I'll ask you again, are you going to whine or are you going to win? People think pressure is the enemy. They think the weight of expectation crushes you, but I'll tell you the truth, pressure is a privilege. If people expect you to deliver, it means you've earned that moment. It means you've climbed high enough for the world to watch. When the game was on the line, when 20,000 eyes were staring, when the whole world was waiting for the outcome. Do you know what I felt? Not fear, not doubt. I felt alive. Because those moments are where champions are born. That's where all the work, all the sacrifice, all the lonely nights pay off. But here's the part people don't want to hear. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your training. You perform at the level of your habits. If you've been whining, slacking, cutting corners, don't expect to shine when the spotlight hits you. You will collapse under the weight of your own excuses. That's why I obsessed over preparation. That's why I practiced like every game was the finals. Because I knew when the pressure came, I wasn't going to rise magically. I was going to fall back on the hours of sweat nobody saw. And those hours carried me. You want confidence? Stop asking for it. Stop waiting to feel it, earn it. Earn it through repetition, through discipline, through sacrifice. Confidence doesn't come from words, it comes from work. And let me remind you, work isn't glamorous. It's not the highlight reel, it's not the celebration. Work is painful, work is lonely, work is boring, but it's the boring, painful, lonely work that separates winners from whiners. See, average people crave comfort. They complain when things get hard. They run when things get heavy. But champions look at the weight and say, put more on me. Champions understand that growth lives in discomfort. Champions know that whining is weakness, and weakness has no place on the path to greatness. I didn't care about being liked. I didn't care about being comfortable. I cared about being the best. And that's the mindset you need if you want to rise above mediocrity. So here's the choice in front of you. Keep whining, keep blaming, keep staying stuck, or embrace the grind, embrace the pain, and build yourself into someone unstoppable. You weren't put on this earth to be average. You weren't put here to settle. You were put here to test your limits, to find your strength, to create your legacy. And you'll never build that legacy with excuses. You'll only build it with work, with sweat, with hunger. So stop whining, start building, start becoming. I'll tell you something about greatness. They don't put on posters. It's not just about winning games. It's about who you become in the process. The trophies, the rings, the records, they're symbols, they fade, they gather dust, but the mentality you build, the discipline you forge, the strength you uncover, that's forever. That's what changes you. That's what makes you unstoppable in any arena, not just on the court. People look at my career and say, Michael, you were born to win. No, I was built to win. And I built myself brick by brick, rep by rep, sacrifice by sacrifice. There were days I didn't want to train, days I felt broken, days I doubted myself, but I showed up anyway. That's the difference. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for someone to light a fire under you. Motivation is a spark, but discipline, that's the fire that never goes out. That's what carries you when you're tired, when you're lost, when the world doubts you. And let me tell you this, whining is the enemy of discipline. You can't complain and grow at the same time. You can't cry about how hard it is while expecting to become stronger. Growth demands pain, discipline demands sacrifice. There were nights when I iced my knees just to stand the next day. There were times when my body screamed to quit, but my mind refused to surrender. Why? Because I wasn't chasing comfort, I was chasing greatness. I was chasing the man I knew I could become if I gave everything. And that's the battle you need to fight. Not against your competition, but against your excuses. Against that voice inside you saying it's too much, it's too hard, it's not fair. Shut that voice down. Replace it with a new one that says, keep going, push harder, become better. The truth is the world doesn't remember the complainers. Nobody builds statues for whiners. Nobody writes history for the people who gave up. History is written by the relentless, by the ones who turn their pain into power, their struggle into strength. So ask yourself, which side are you going to be on? Are you going to be forgotten with the crowd of excuse makers? Or are you going to stand out, remembered as someone who refused to quit, someone who rose above weakness, someone who demanded greatness from themselves every single day? You have a choice right now. Stop whining, start working, stop complaining, start becoming. Because if you're willing to sacrifice, to suffer, to endure, there's no limit to who you can become. Every time I walked into the arena, I carried something heavier than the ball. I carried expectations, I carried pressure, I carried the weight of proving myself again and again. And I loved it because pressure either breaks you or builds you. And I refused to break. But here's the thing, most people don't understand. Greatness is rented, not owned. You don't achieve it once and keep it forever. You have to pay the rent every single day with sweat, with focus, with sacrifice. The moment you stop paying, the moment you get comfortable, the moment you start whining, you fall. That's why I never stopped chasing, even after championships, even after MVPs. I asked myself, what's next? How do I get better? How do I sharpen my edge? Because the second you think you've arrived, you've already started to decline, and that's what separates the great from the average. Average people want to arrive and rest. Great ones never arrive. They keep climbing, keep pushing, keep demanding more. Now listen closely. I wasn't the tallest, I wasn't the strongest, I wasn't even the most talented player to ever step on the court, but I made a decision that nobody would outwork me, nobody would outlast me, nobody would break me. That decision, lived out daily, is what built my legacy. So don't tell me you can't succeed because of where you started. Don't tell me your circumstances are too hard. I've seen players with more talent than me disappear because they chose excuses over effort. And I've seen underdogs rise from nothing because they refuse to quit. It's not about what you're given, it's about what you're willing to do. Let me tell you something about whining. It's contagious. Hang around people who complain and soon you'll be complaining too. But hunger, it's contagious too. Discipline is contagious. Surround yourself with warriors, with grinders, with people who don't accept average, and you'll rise to their level. So check your circle. Are you surrounded by whiners or winners? Are you feeding your excuses or your greatness? I'll never forget the nights after a loss. The media would tear me apart, the critics would shout, the fans would doubt. But I didn't waste a second whining about it. I went straight back to work, straight back to the gym, because talk doesn't change the score, work does. And if there's one lesson I want you to leave with, it's this: whining changes nothing, work changes everything. So the next time you feel like complaining about how hard life is, remember, hard is the point, hard is the gift, hard is what forges greatness. Let me leave you with this: life is short. The clock is always ticking, and one day your game will end. The question is, when that buzzer sounds, will you look back with regret or with pride? I've met too many people who live their whole lives whining. They complain about the opportunities they didn't get, the breaks they never had, the luck that never came. And then their time runs out. They never became what they could have been, not because they lacked talent, but because they lacked the courage to shut their mouths and get to work. I don't want that for you. I want you to feel what it's like to push past your limits, to taste the victory that comes from sacrifice, to stand at the top and know you earned it. That's a feeling no complaint can ever give you. You want to know what separates the greats from the forgotten? It's not talent, it's not opportunity, it's not luck, it's hunger, it's obsession, it's the refusal to stop, it's the ability to look pain in the eye and keep moving forward. When I stepped onto the court, I wasn't playing for applause. I wasn't playing for fame. I was playing for the challenge, for the test, for the fire inside me that demanded more. Every game was war. Every practice was preparation for battle. And whining, that was weakness, and weakness had no place in my life. So if you want to be great, stop telling the world how unfair life is. Stop wasting your breath on excuses. Stop waiting for someone to hand you success. Success doesn't come to those who complain. It comes to those who grind, who sacrifice, who bleed for it. You've got to decide, are you going to spend your life whining, or are you going to spend it winning? Because let me promise you something. When you finally commit, when you finally shut down the excuses and give everything you've got, you will shock yourself. You will discover strength you never knew existed. You will rise higher than you thought possible. And in that moment, when you've gone through the fire, when you've suffered, when you've endured, and you come out on the other side stronger, you'll understand what greatness really is. It's not the trophy, it's not the applause, it's who you became in the process. So here's my final message to you. Stop whining, start working, stop complaining, start becoming. Don't waste another second blaming the world. Build yourself into the kind of person no obstacle can stop, no failure can break, no pain can destroy. Because greatness doesn't wait, and neither should you.